Alright, another draft physics video presentation. Ugh. Sorry, forgot the light. Alright, response video to the Skyraym guys. Posted a bunch of more gibberish. Total move the goalposts, change the subject. You go to bother to making the proof, drawing the proof, and they just pay no attention. It's just a religious kook making excuses for everything. You show him a dinosaur bone, he says, "Oh, God's just testing you. You see if you'd fall for that." Just making up rationalizations. Alright, so I clearly make the assertion that all of the conventional model, okay, everywhere it's posted, I showed the Google page, I could go to the Wikipedia page on the double slit experiment, and they'll show it wrong. They'll keep referencing the Young experiment. The Young experiment didn't show the two patterns, okay? You see it right below me there. Two patterns. In the bottom image with the little dots, you can see that there's two patterns, the little dots, and then there's this break, and then it does something different. So we've been over all this. So you won't concede that, yes, it appears that physics doesn't know what it's talking about because it keeps describing an experiment that's fundamental to its physics wrong. And they keep drawing it wrong over and over and over again. And none of the physicists correct the other physicists and point out you're drawing it wrong. It can't work that way. The two waves don't work. You have to do something different to them. You have to do a whole complex equation to them to change them into something else. And I'll show you what they're changing it into. So this is, they'll concede nothing. They'll just keep evading the questions. It's a pointed question to you, Skyraym guy. Will you admit that every video on YouTube on the double slit experiment is teaching it wrong? It's not correct. It doesn't work. Two symmetrical waves will not create the asymmetry needed to create that pattern. So I could do the, when I draw this, I'm not drawing it to scale. I mean, this distance isn't the wavelength of a piece of red light or anywhere close. I'm modeling it, and I'm just saying so there's the model. I can do this forever. Okay, I can make 1 trillion gazillion of these two little humps like this. Right, I can do that forever, all of eternity. Just keep doing more and more lines, trillions and zillions of them, and they will never create any asymmetry. That is, they will create bar, 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 bar forever, and there will be no breaks because there's nothing to create the break. These aren't two different frequencies. It's the same light, the same wavelength, so you can't have any harmonics. It's just not possible. It's on the first, and that's it. And there's no source of any other waves to make other harmonics out of. It just will only do one thing. And the thing it will never do is create these dead spots. And that's the model, and they draw it all the time because modeling is part of physics. Just like architectural blueprints are fundamental to architecture, okay? Models are fundamental to physics. And yet, all of a sudden, models don't matter. I don't have to draw anything. I don't have to show you where the asymmetry comes from. I don't have to show you where there's two things that aren't the same. Okay, well, I'll give you the correct answer. This is what their complicated math does to the two slit experiment. This is the experiment. And all of a sudden they say, well, this doesn't work. So let's make our center line here and do our math from there. And then they realize, well, these two slits, surfaces, actually, guess what? They are creating the underlying pattern. They're creating this thing, okay? They're doing that part. And these two slits, they're doing the little bar part, okay? See, I can do a single slit at this total opening, here to here. So whatever I make this, 1 millimeter, doesn't matter what I make it. I can make it anything, and I'll get exactly a proportional size change in these little bars. So if I want to make this, I make it 0.5 millimeter. If I want to get this, I make it 1 millimeter. I want to get little tiny bars, I just make it 1.5 millimeters. So all I do is change its size, and I change how big the little bars are. That's it. So the clear thing that's happening as I pointed out, okay, and the math basically is doing this. It's saying, which locations are the two bars on top of each other? Oh, well, these locations are on top of each other, and these locations are on top of each other, and these locations are on top of each other, but they're not on top of each other here. So yeah, no bull bar there, and it exactly creates the pattern. So what they're basically doing is moving the wave to here, okay, and here. They're just drawing circles, you know, just like that. They're putting a little circle and they're only counting which way it's going in one direction. But they're just making circles, and they're making this circle has little tiny lines. It's the big circle with the little lines, right? And then they have a little circle with big giant lines. And they're just saying, where are those two in phase? That is, where is this middle of this line, you could say, would be the crest of the wave. All right, and you'd say this is the trough, and then you have a crest, and then your trough, and all they're saying is where do the phases line up? So when crest on crest, it's the brightest. So when the two of them are perfectly lined up, it's the brightest. And then they're getting a little bit out of phase here, a little bit more out of phase here, a little bit more out of phase here. And that's what's creating the change in the intensity. Is you're just coming off the crest before you get to the complete zero, and then you're going back up the crest again, and then down, and up and down, and up and down, and that's all this is. They're a little bit out of phase, more out of phase, more in phase, more in phase, in phase, more out of phase, more out of phase, more out of phase. That's all it is. This is all there is mathematically. There's only these simple variables, right? So he's telling me he can't draw a picture of a system that only has this distance as one variable, this distance as another variable, and the wavelength of the light, and the distance of the target. Well, we don't even care about that because we already know what's causing the size changes. So that's already done. We don't need to worry about, you know, how many of these fit inside of how many of these. I can change it any way I want. I can make the same exact pattern down below, except only have 3 lights, 3 circles in the middle. But they'll take up about the same amount of space as the 11 of them do now. So I just may end up making them bigger. But it'll be the same first pattern. So all I do is, you know, if I want to change this, I just change this distance. I want to put fewer little blobs in here. You know, I have a pattern that looks like this. Okay, I want to make a pattern that looks like that instead. All I do is change this distance. I just move this, I just make this surface this big, and this surface this big, and I just change how big these openings are. And bingo, I got that. Same underlying, right? It's fitting inside the same thing here, same difference, so I should have drawn it to fit inside there, but it would fit in the same profile and would just have bigger blocks. And if I want smaller blocks, I just make it a bit wider. I just make those slits wider, and all of a sudden I can make these into little tiny, even smaller little blocks, little tiny blocks. This would stay exactly the same because this is being created by this distance. Alright, so instead of conceding that this is the way the experiment's done, right? So they can't tell you, they can't with a straight face say to you, well, yeah, a photon goes in and it goes through the brick in the middle, goes right through the brick in the middle, and another wave goes around the brick and makes a wave with a brick inside of it. Yeah. So they can't say that with a straight face, but everybody say, what are you talking about? That never happens. You might be able to get away with saying this happens, but guess what? That won't work. No asymmetry. This creates asymmetry. This does not. Simple, factual, you know, and he's just going to keep making these ludicrous defenses that he's talking a wave theory when he's showing a theory that will not illustrate a single wave. They can't draw it as a wave because it doesn't work as a wave. All right. So he says, herder, draw a picture or no waves. So again, he's mocking the idea that physicists really should be able to model what they're talking about. If they say, if you can say you're going to build Noah's Ark, you should at least be able to build a model of it first. You know, that kind of crap. Not that models ever are that transferable, but you have to make them out of some other kind of substance. But again, it's a model that only has, what, 3 variables that are important? 3? And you can't model the effects of 3 variables you can change. And the 3 variables are dead simple. I mean, they're just 2 of them are distances and one of them is a wavelength, a frequency. That's all you have to model, is how those 3 variables affect something. And you're saying, I'm not obligated. You're saying, I could, but I need a supercomputer. No. Cop out, evasion, bullshit. All right, waves are basically described as time-dependent fields in physics. Well, it doesn't matter how you describe it in words. We all know what a wave looks like. And they have symmetry. And you have to explain why there's an asymmetry. Where does the asymmetry come from? Because you can't draw it that way. You can't draw the asymmetry without drawing it as assholery. Okay? It doesn't work. Because you don't understand what's causing the effect. What's causing the effect are the surfaces. They're the point sources. The surfaces are the point sources. And you've misidentified that simple truth. The surfaces are the point sources. Okay. In physics, and the lines you draw are regions with the same amplitude. Yeah, and those lines can only be radial from these 2 center points, and those 2 center points can't create the pattern with a hole in it. Okay, it won't do it. You can draw it all day long and there's no way to mess with it because it has symmetry, and the symmetry won't create an asymmetrical outcome. All right, for a wavelength of 50, so he just keeps doing this nonsense, 500 nanometers, and yes, it does matter. No, it doesn't. We already know what causes the effect. Again, let me reiterate this. I mean, we already know that the size of the blocks is being caused by these 2 outside surfaces. This distance is deciding that size, and this distance is deciding this size. All right? Game over. All right? It's understood now. You can't fool me or the people watching this video anymore with this dodge. We now know what surface is causing what effect. We know that if I do a single slit at this distance, I'll get this size block. We know if I do a single slit at this distance, I'll get this size block. So the game is over. All right. I would need to draw 2 million lines. So obviously it's illustrated all the time without going to the actual nanometer lengths and drawing every single line. They illustrate it with just 10 or 12 lines. They don't have to draw them all. So that's just a dodge, complete dodge. All I'm looking for is the last line, frankly, or whatever, the last 15. I'm looking for the one that creates the empty spot, and you can't do it from those 2 points. You can't draw any waves from those 2 points. The center of those 2 openings is the wrong distance. And it's not asymmetrical. The 2 waves are the same. You can't make that empty spot with 2 waves that are the same. You can't do it. All right, lines for a slit screen distance of 0.5 millimeters. So again, you could say, well, you'd have to draw 2 million lines for one that was 0.3 or 0.10. It wouldn't matter. You'd still have to draw a ton of lines if you're going to do the actual frequencies of the actual photons in nanometers and all that crap. How many fit in the total space of the gigantic experiment? Well, obviously in 10 meters I could have as distance. Yeah, you could fit an awful lot of nanometers inside of that 10 meters. So what? We know you can illustrate it. You can make small models of things that are big, and you make big models of things that are small. So this is just a cop-out. Someone could probably compute it for you, but it would be hard to visualize. Well, again, I don't need it computed. We already know what's causing the effect. It doesn't need to be computed. No, it needs to be drawn. You're saying something with symmetry is creating something with asymmetry. And I'm saying overtly, you're an idiot if you think that's possible. Okay, visualize anything, and it is besides the point. No, you're besides the point. You're off the subject. The subject is, I'm proven that conventional physics is arguing a physics that isn't true. It's a lie. It's a deception. It's a distortion. It isn't a fact. The two little waves popping out do not create the pattern. They can't create the pattern. You have to completely manipulate the positions or the sizes of those waves to make the pattern. And that's the fact. You're just reconstructing from the pattern back to the source, not the source to the pattern. You're not predicting the pattern. You're reconstructing a source based on where it has to be to work. And that's why you're not drawing it, because you'll see their wave goes right through the brick. Okay. Besides the point, since no physicist ever uses that method to predict interference patterns. So again, so why did they draw it? Why did Young draw pictures of it then, if they never do that? Young was a wave expert, by the way. And just to be clear, Young didn't notice the breaks in the pattern. Okay, so it wasn't part of his physics. All right, physicists generally use math to make predictions and not drawing, so this is more nonsense. Again, predicting that the outside, okay, is influencing the size of these little blocks. I can predict it now. I can predict any change in this outside dimension will create a commensurate change to the size of these blocks. So what? How did I predict it? Oh, that's right, because I saw it. I drew a picture of it and I realized it. So pictures are worth thousands and thousands of words sometimes, and you're just copying the fuck out. This is a pathetic excuse. I can't draw 3 variables and explain how they work in a system. Just 3 stinking little variables. And I can't explain to you how, they play out. I can't draw you a picture. Lie and deception and evasion. Cop out. Pussy bullshit physics. Your theory sucks. You can't admit it. And so instead you lie and denigrate my physics. Because you're a weasel and you're a person of very low character. Alright, not every piece of physics exists as a YouTube video. Okay, well this is like a foundational experiment. I want to say this to you again, but you want me to play Feynman, Professor Lewin, the guy at Stanford. I can play them all, pointing out how this is the experiment. So, this is your poster child, and you're saying we don't have to take a good picture? Yeah, you do have to take a good picture. You want to get this one right. Okay, this is cornerstone. Cornerstone has to be even. Cornerstone has to be well cemented. You don't do a sloppy job on the cornerstone. And the videos found here are generally intended for laymen. So this is more lies. All right, laymen aren't paying MIT real money to learn physics. And again, I can just keep playing professor after professor after professor, drawing it wrong. And you're going to say that's okay. But that's part of your perfect physics, right? They couldn't lie and tell you how quantum mechanics creates perfect math if they didn't fake it. They have to fake it because they don't have it. Their theory doesn't work. This whole wave crap is wrong-headed. It's stupid. They should abandon it. And you're just keeping the lie alive with your lies, and you're throwing mud at me. Right? The messenger. I'm just sending the message, and you don't like to hear the message, and you won't admit the message. The message is that your physicists are teaching crap, and you know it. You know it's wrong. Will you admit it? Can you at least admit the minimum? Okay? The traditional drawing that's littered all over Google can't create the pattern. Will you admit that truth? The one Al-Kahari draws, the one Feynman drew, the one that Lewin draws. It can't create the pattern. Okay. All right. They do nothing more than give a very surface level, qualitative, he says, understanding of the specific phenomenon. How are you understanding the phenomenon when you're saying something that has no asymmetry and it is capable of creating an asymmetrical pattern? Isn't that violating the fundamental laws of physics? Isn't that basically like violating energy conservation? You're implying that somehow a symmetrical system creates asymmetry. No, it doesn't. An asymmetrical system has to create asymmetry. All right, if you want to criticize the predictive power of physics, so here he goes again. You want to criticize the predictive power? No, I want to criticize the accuracy power of physics. It apparently is incapable of being accurate. And you're just hiding completely broken theories behind that inaccuracy. You just keep telling me things are perfectly correct when they're not. You sell the Eddington experiment, even though Eddington said I wouldn't stake my life on these results. Yet you think the New York headline was appropriate. I mean, you're a terrible scientist. You're just awful. You're religious kooks, and that's all you are. You're fanatics for a fucking theory, for a mistake that was made. You're just sitting here kind of like going, well, Benjamin Franklin was right, sort of. I mean, the positive is sort of, positive in that it's inviting electrons to it. So isn't that a positive effect? Like, you're inviting electrons to your house, so you're being a very positive person, like you're putting happy balloons in front of your house saying, come on over, electrons. So you're sort of a positive, right? So he wasn't wrong to label it positive. Yes, of course, there's less negative, there's less electrons. Okay, so yeah, that's true, but it's very positive and it's receptive of electrons. This is just rationalization. This is fucking baby intellectualizations. I mean, this is so obviously just somebody evading his responsibility to draw the friggin' picture. Okay. If you want to criticize the predictive power of physics, you have to learn more math. No, I don't have to learn the math. Because I can draw a picture. Okay? Picture's worth 1,000 words. And again, the math is what? Hidden in a bunch of crap variables, right? You just change the variables. All of a sudden, the center point is now going to be a relevant variable, the center point, when we know the only relevant variable is the distance between the surfaces. And all of a sudden, you're going to change the goalpost of the variables. Just like you do in Huygens. You just invent this special little barrier in the middle that breaks the wave into two pieces. The magical two-wave barrier creator. You don't have anything else. You just do it through magic and then pretend you did it mathematically. You didn't do it mathematically. Mathematics doesn't predict there's a barrier, a zero-size barrier in the middle of the single slit. No, math didn't predict it. Math created it. Okay. Go to university or at least read this. So it's just more horseshit. So let's go to another page that won't have a wave on it. Right? So this is wave mechanics. Except we won't draw any waves on the page. Right? There's not a single wave on this page. Not a single frickin' wave will be drawn, will be shown moving anywhere. The only thing you'll see is vectors. Vectors, 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 created from unknown locations, because they can't show you the location, because guess what? The location won't be the fucking slit. Yeah, that's the truth. It won't be the slit. Look at this drawing, for example. Two slit interference using a red laser. Is that real? Is that the two slit pattern? Is that honest? So the page you link me to has one of the dishonesties sitting here, glaringly sitting right in front of you, right? Because they used one kind of mathematical technique, and this is all of a sudden the two slit pattern using this mathematical technique. Well, obviously that technique failed, didn't it? Failed dismally, right? Completely failed to accurately get the right pattern, right? And then what will they do over here? They'll use a different math. Oh, it's missing. No image. Isn't that too bad? But I'm sure. Oh, there it is. Oh, all of a sudden the break is there. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, and you say this isn't bullshit? This isn't bullshit on the very page here. Two slit interference using a red laser. Is that two slit interference? No. This is, right? So you're just playing a fucking game here. And look at all this convoluted math. What do you think that convoluted math is for? Well, it's for basically moving the wave over here and making this one twice as big. That's what it's for. It's to contrive the change in the location of the wave because they can't make it. They have to make one of the waves big and one of the waves small. They have to create an asymmetry, so then they can create points where they are constructively interfering and destructively, and they can't do that. I mean, the two patterns, not the light. And they can't do that without cheating. So again, not a single drawing of a wave. Look at all this crap. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And there's no waves in the damn page. So no waves. Yet he says this is wave math. And there's no waves in it. I mean, you know, honorable members of the jury. I mean, how much evidence do you need? They're claiming the sources, and they won't identify where their vectors are coming from, because they know, oh yeah, the wave went right through the brick. You know, waves aren't going to do that, are they? Light can't go right through bricks, can it? No, it can't. All right, here we go. If you want to understand how the math applies in this case, I know you won't, though, because you don't actually care. No, apparently I'm the one who does care. You're the liars and the cheaters and the thieves who are fucking, you know, maligning physics with your lies. And I'm going to prove you wrong, and you're going to someday be humbled and recognize that you were just part of a horrible Borg. You were just a religious fanatic with a stupid lie in your head, and you sat there and defended it. And you just didn't care about the truth. You didn't have the guts to say, yes, it's totally wrong that physics keeps teaching this incorrectly. They're lying to the students. They're giving them a false impression that something symmetrical creates an asymmetrical pattern. And it can't do that. You're the evil person here. You know. So let's go to his other page. Just you know, let's go hit that stupid math page again. So right here you can see where they're doing it. All right, we must take in count the relative phases of the contributors. Oh, we know their phases. Both of the waves have exactly the same phase. So why do they say the relative phases? Oh, that's right, because they had to account for the fact that there's two waves of very different phase that are creating the pattern. Very different. The phase of this single slit, this interior little wave, is way different than this one. This one creates little tiny frequencies. This one creates a big giant frequency, right? The two different patterns here. One's a big giant frequency, one's a little tiny frequency. All right. From the individual slits to a point on the screen. So again, the relative phases. There's no relative phases. It's in phase light that's going into the slits. There's no relative phases. The formula above was written so that we took the phase of the light that passes through the center of our single slit to be 0. So again, these are single slits, but he'll get to it over here. Then each subsequent slit, right? So they're talking about multiple slits. So when they said single slit, they just mean, well, let's count this as the single, and then we'll go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. All they're doing is exactly what I did in the other video. They're just saying that with each slit, I add another line, okay, that's 3 times bigger than the original, right? This is 1, then this would be 3, right? And the next would be 9, and the next one would be 27, right? So they just get exponentially bigger, and this is the integral right here. You can see it right here in the math. This is the trick. Okay, so we shall use the following setup. We consider each number of slits with the first pair of slits, AB, at a distance of D divided by 2 in the center line, and the second pair at a distance 3D divided by 2, right? Not 2D, 3D. All right, so they're clearly saying it's 3 distances. So you start with a distance of 1, you go to a distance of 3, and they didn't write it here. They just said and so on. And what they mean by and so on, they mean it goes 3, and then it goes 9, and then it goes 12. Okay, that's what they mean. It goes 5. No, it goes 3, goes 0, it goes 1, 3, 5, 7.5, da-da-da-da. But anyway. All right, the phase between the paths from each center slit to the central line are pairwise. So here's the integral. See, they have dot, dot, dot here because it's an integral. It goes for the number of lines. So all they're saying in the math is, this is 1, this is 3, the next one's going to be, I should be able to figure it out, right? From the center line, the next one is going to be 2D more. So yeah, that would be 5. 5 and I thought, yeah, 5. Well, anyway, it's the way I drew it yesterday. Okay, you just keep making the lines bigger and bigger because you're just measuring as you have. So if I made 20 slits, you could sort of get it, right? 20 slits were in here. 20. You can get it that this is a pair. So when he said pair, this is what he means. This is a pair. This is a pair. These two would be a pair. These two would be a pair. And they're getting wider and wider and wider. And what does the wideness means? It means this is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so all you're doing is stacking bricks. And you're starting with you start with the inside first, so you're starting with the biggest bricks first and then just making the smaller ones on top. And then you're just saying there will be light where the most bricks are stacked up this way. The more bricks you have stacked up this way, the more light you'll have. And you'll see it'll diminish, and then it'll go brighter again, and then it'll diminish and then go brighter again, and you'll get this exactly what the outcome will be. Because that's what's really happening. Oh, these people are just so despicable. If you want to understand, you're just so patronizing. No, if you want to understand, grow some integrity. All right? It's clearly obvious. I'm absolutely correct. Physics isn't telling anything like the real story. They're deceiving people with their little wave drawings because their little wave drawings that they can draw don't work. All right. You claim that the wave model couldn't reproduce the two-slit experiment, and it's true. The wave model, the one drawn, can't do it in a million years. You could spend a million years with your two symmetrical waves and you'll never create an asymmetry. You can't possibly do these two waves and create the pattern, the break in the pattern. Doesn't matter how close you bring them together, doesn't mean how far you bring them apart, doesn't even matter if you do this to them, frankly. You can't make these two waves, wave 1, wave 2, you can't ever make them create this broken pattern. And you're lying to imply that you have shown anything other than that to be the truth. You haven't shown it in any way whatsoever. Okay, you claim that the wave model couldn't reproduce the two-slit experiment. That's true. I showed you. You showed nothing. You didn't even show the equation solved. All you showed was derivatives of the same equation that ends up with an equation that you never proved actually works. But anyway, besides that, you didn't do any such thing. You didn't show how their theory of waves are created. How did you make the wave? What other way is there to make the waves? You have to have a theory. And again, as I just pointed out, their theory was going to have to be, well, one of the waves goes right through the brick, okay, and the other wave does this. Because those are the two waves that'll create this break. Those asymmetrical waves will create this pattern. These two waves can't do it. Ever. Alright. I showed you that. No, you didn't. It can be, and pretty precisely. So again, he showed nothing. Didn't even show a wave. Okay, and he certainly didn't show how these two sources, the center of this slit and the center of this slit being exactly in phase light, how those variables could ever create this asymmetry. He certainly didn't show that. All right. Denying the intensity distribution is equivalent to denying your own vision. Well, I'm not denying the intensity, so that's a lie. A fucking lie. I clearly pointed out, I drew the picture of the pyramid. I drew the intensity, pointing out that, well, yes, this is one block. You know, the first one is on top of one block, and then this will be this size, and then this one will be this size, and then this one will be this size, and then this one will be this size, and this one will be this size, and that's the intensity, is lining them all up in phase. So he just lies again, all right? So there's no denying it. You can see in the video that in the center the intensity is much brighter, and never denied by me. Yes, there's more in phase photons when they're all on top. When you add a piece of photon plus another piece of a photon plus another piece of a photon, yes, that'll work. If you add a piece and then no piece and no piece and then another piece and then no piece and no piece and then another piece, that won't be a photon, but this will be a photon. And that's clearly what I said. So you're just lying again to say that somehow I denied the intensity. Liar. All right. Is much brighter than the side regions, and it slowly fades as you go further from the center. Exactly as I drew it as a pyramid. Can you get any more obvious of a fade than drawing something as a pyramid? Very small at the ends and very bigger as you go to the top. Yeah. So he's pretending somehow I denied that. Oh, liar again. Okay, that's what the graph also tells you, which again doesn't contradict anything I said at all. It verifies it. All right. Do me the fucking test at home. So again, pretending that this argument is about what the pattern looks like there's some sort of disagreement about patterns. I have it enlarged in my video 3 times now, pointing out this is the pattern. You agree this is the pattern, right? You agree on the size argument, that the bottom pattern was created by a central impediment that was exactly the same size as the opening of the top pattern. You agree with that, correct? You're not disputing that, are you, fucknut? And so here you are pretending there's some arguing about the pattern size. There's no argument. We're trying to explain what that dead spot is there on the bottom pattern. And that other dead spot. What are they doing there, jackass? Because your 2 symmetrical waves can't do that. You fucking liar. Alright. Do the fucking test at home. So again, just idiotic. Give me the slit width. Again, we already figured out what is causing the width of the slits. We don't need your math. I can draw a picture of it. I can generalize it. We know now that all I do is move the outside surfaces in and out, and I'll change how many little blobs of light are showing. The same, they'll be stuck in the same bigger pattern because I'm not changing the surfaces in the center. So all I have to do is move the 2 outside slits, and I can make 3 dots, 6 dots, 10 dots, 20 dots by just changing the outside slits. Asshole. That's the fact. All right. Okay. And I will predict the pattern before you even see it. So will I. So again, more bullshit. So more implication that somehow, oh, my theory doesn't work because I don't know that these 2 outside surfaces are dictating the size of those little blocks. Well, yeah, I do know that, asshole. And I clearly knew it 3 videos ago. So this is just more lies, more straw men. Okay, you can also choose as many slits as you want if you measure it with a photodiode. So again, why can't you do any of those experiments? So conventional physics has never done this photodiode bullshit. So show me their experiments doing the photodiode bullshit. Okay, a real MIT experiment. Yeah, no, won't happen either. Okay, you will see that the intensity is correct. While you're saying so, I'm saying it's going to be close enough that I don't care. It doesn't really have much to do with the theory, so I'm really not worried about that. But what I'd like you to do is do a temperature test. I'd like you to see if the temperature where the destroyed photons are, if the temperature is the same as where the photons are. Because that might indicate that your whole theory is a pile of shit. Okay. Anyway. If you measure it with a photodiode, okay, we already did that. That's physics for you. So again, he pretends like they have the right answers, like if physics works. Clearly, it doesn't. Your physics doesn't work. You're telling me, okay, that your quantum mechanics says two waves are doing it. You even said Huygens tells us that there's infinite number of little waves inside of those two waves. Well, Huygens doesn't explain that pattern. Those two waves can't explain the pattern, because those two waves have to be identical. They don't have any asymmetry built into them. They can't create an asymmetrical pattern. All they can do is create block, 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 block. On, off, on, off, on, off. Forever. Okay. If I'm lying to you, you're just full of shit, that's all. I don't know whether it's a lie or you're just such a religious fanatic. You just don't care about the truth. You're lying about me. That you're clearly doing. By implying that this has something to do with a disagreement about what the pattern looks like. There's no disagreement about what the pattern looks like, asshole. Okay. Then why am I telling you to do the test? So again, why do I need to do the test? So why don't you just explain in one of these stupid idiotic sentences you write how the test is going to turn out any different when I do it. And the fact is, I've already asserted to you, I've done it multiple times. I had a single slit with 60 bars in it. So what are you going to tell me? What that I don't already know? Oh, that's right, nothing. Okay, should I be scared of the test? How is the test going to change anything? The pattern doesn't change. Your theory of cause is what's on the debating table here, idiot. Okay, the fact that somebody's got a knife in their head, that's the concession. Somebody's dead, they got a knife in their head. You have this wacky ass bullshit theory that the knife, the invisible man stuck it there. And I'm arguing, no, we know what stuck it there. We know the only way this is going to work with these two openings is that the real thing, the factor that matters, is the distance between the surfaces. This doesn't have anything to do with no dopey waves. This has to do with the distance from which the sources, the point sources, have more distance between them than there's smaller frequency variations per length of line. The longer I make the line, the more frequencies I can cut the line into. All right. God, you're such a scum. Now tell me your model now tell me, can your model do that? Exactly. Well, I already showed you the model doing it. The model is exactly correct because I have the point sources in the right location. And the phase math works. If I just do this drawing over, long enough, this pyramid will keep reoccurring and reoccurring and reoccurring. Okay, if I gave you the same information, can you generate the pattern with an accurate intensity distribution? Yes, no problem. It's built right into the model right below. The single impediment does that top line that is right in the center and gets gradually weaker. The other lines are also gradually weaker. So we already know that's part of the formula. So what's complicated? And then I just say the little bars have to be in the same location for there to be a photon. So obviously my theory says, yes, they add, and whoops, you're missing the bar part. You're missing half the contribution of photons, so you don't have enough light to make that other dot show up. But that's the only reason why it's not showing up, is because it's out of phase with the first wave. And if you're out of phase with the first, you have no hope. All right. Generate the accurate distribution. If your theory works and mine doesn't, yours doesn't have a mechanism. Mine does. You have no mechanism. You can't show me how the three variables interact. I am showing you how the three variables interact perfectly. Okay, why can't you do the single test and compare them? Again, there's no argument about what the consequences are. We're arguing about what's causing the consequence. You're arguing a wave. I'm arguing scatter at 4 specific locations. Okay. Are you a coward or simply not interested in the truth? So you're the coward. You can't draw 3 variables. You can't draw a system with 3 fucking variables, and 2 of the variables are going to be the same, the slit widths. And you can't handle that. So who are you to dare somebody? And again, what are you daring me to do? To produce the very pattern I'm saying exists? To verify my own theory? There's no contradiction in the outcome. I'm arguing for that pattern. The pattern right down there, that's the pattern you're going to get, jackass. I'm asserting nothing else, you liar. I don't care about your drawings. Okay, well, that's all we need to know, right? That's physicists talking. I don't want to draw it when it's impossible. That's all they're saying. I don't want the obligation to draw it when it's impossible. Yeah, when my theory's wrong and is impossible, well, I don't have any obligation to draw it because that would show it's impossible. Okay, that's like drawing the interferometer and explaining where the interference happens in that funky device. I don't want to have to draw it. I mean, because frankly, it'll look stupid. And that's what you'll have to concede, is your theory is stupid. It would look stupid if you attempted to draw it, but you can't. Okay, as long as they don't predict stuff. So again, you didn't predict anything with any drawings. So let's just understand, you didn't explain how 2 waves make your pattern at all. You didn't show us the 2 waves. You didn't show us what the 2 waves look like. You didn't show us where the asymmetry comes into the 2 waves, how they can possibly have harmonic locations where they constructively add to each other. You didn't show us any of that. If you want to be taken seriously, well, not by liars and scum like you. You obviously have no integrity. So what does it mean? What is taking something seriously for you? You don't care if physics lies to your teeth. You don't care if your professor tells you a fake story. Who the fuck are you? Why should I take you seriously, you dumb douche? You fucking doopy little Borg member? No, I don't want you to take me seriously. Obviously, you don't give a fuck about the truth. You don't have any integrity. You won't admit that the physics is wrong. You won't admit that it doesn't work with these 2 waves they place here. The waves can't possibly be in these 2 locations and be of the same frequency and create the pattern. You have to admit that truth, right? Unless you're just full of complete shit. So admit the fucking truth. You have to admit that this drawing that they show you is wrong. It can't create the pattern. Can you admit that truth? The drawing they draw can't create the pattern. Will you admit the fucking truth? You little lying piece of shit. All right. Instead of insulting me, you're insulting me, right, for pointing out what their drawing can't work. And you know it, and you're just lying. You're just sitting here pretending that's not a critical error. They're allowed to deceive people by pretending the wrong drawing works. Okay, anyway. Then show everyone from your model you can actually get measurable physical values. Well, I don't have to because everybody knows it now. Everybody's played with these experiments and they have the, it gets hard to follow the dots. But I've shown you the dots. Move the outside slits. You change how little the bars are, how tight they are. Okay, move the inside, you change how big where those gaps are. And that's it. That's all there is. Those are the only 2 things you change in the experiment. So you're just really talking about how big the openings are compared to how big the middle impediment is. And you can only vary those 2 are the only 2 variables to vary. That's it. And by varying them, I can make more dots, covering a larger area, or less dots in a smaller area, or vice versa. That's it. All right. From your model, how you actually get measurable physical values. How many maxima will I get in the center of if I use 0.2 millimeter slits with 0.2 separation? 11. No. Okay, so obviously it'd be the same proportion as this. But because the center one is smaller, okay, so it's going to cover a lot less space. So, if I was to guess that this was done at maybe a 0.75 millimeter, then you'd say 2, just cut it down to like 3 or 4. It's obviously a very small center opening. Center impediment. The center impediment, no, the outside is what decides the size of the bars. So the size of the bars are going to be very close because the 0.2 opening is very small. So the 0.2 opening is going to mean they're very small bars. So there are going to be a lot of them. But let's just say 11, because it might be, because it's the same numbers, the same proportion, maybe the numbers will be exactly the same, frankly. See, if I did 0.5 and 0.5, oh, this is 0.02 millimeters. It's 10 times smaller than the slit opening. So if this is what he said, right? How many maxima will I get in the center if I use 0.02 millimeter slits with 0.2 milliliter separation? So that's a 10-fold difference in the size of the openings versus the thing in the middle. So he's making the thing in the middle gigantic compared to the slits, right? 10 times difference. So yeah, you're going to get a lot of bars. A lot of bars. Okay. Anyway, physics is about predicting stuff. Well, again, that's not really what it's about. Physics is about lying and being religious. That's what physicists are demonstrating. You don't predict anything. Where did you predict the multiverse? Where did you predict dark energy, dark matter? You didn't predict any of this stuff. Young didn't even know there was this stupid two-double pattern. So why are you playing this game, idiot? You didn't predict shit. All right, not about looking at the experiment and making drawings to explain how it works. So yeah, you can't even do that right. So your predictions suck. These two waves won't create the pattern. So again, you didn't predict the pattern. If I draw this, what you say is running the experiment waves, two waves that go through two slits. If I draw that, it won't predict that pattern. It won't predict the pattern because the pattern's impossible. It can't predict it. All right. Let's see. Making drawings to explain how it works. Well, again, lots of physicists do lots of drawing. So, I can show physicists drawing it if you want me to do that. I mean, I'll just go through the whole lecture series and I'll just show every time the physicist draws it. Okay, should I do that? Okay, if that was the case, then I could just draw the lines to where the photons land for every possible slit combination. Well, you sort of can. You can draw it as angles, 3 degrees, 6 degrees, 9 degrees. You can do that. I've seen them do that for the change in the frequency. They can draw, oh, see, this is where the red light would show up, and this is where the blue light would show up. You can draw that, no problem. Then say, oh yeah, it makes sense, and call it a day. Well, you can't do it with these two waves. What they draw as the starting point. The starting point is that you say the slits are where the energy is going through and it makes a wave. The argument is you can't take that model and turn it into that pattern. It won't happen. You have to pervert the model. And all you're doing is perverting the model with mathematics so people can't see you perverted it. You made this wave 3 times bigger and you made this wave on top of the brick. That's what your math did. Your math doesn't have the waves in the same location. And that's the only way you could create the asymmetry that creates the pattern. God, you're just such pieces of shit liars. Okay, anyway, call it a day. Stop pretending that what you're doing is anything more than philosophy. So he calls it philosophy to pretend it's good science to deceive and lie. So yeah, I'm doing philosophy because I'm not a liar like you are. A defender of lies. Right? So if I play Al-Kahari in his tuxedo in the very room that Faraday did lectures, standing in Faraday's footsteps, okay, in his tuxedo, you think Faraday would say, oh yeah, explain that two-slit with those bogus lies. Yeah, that's really cool. And then bring up the detector experiments that they never did. That's really cool. That's really great physics. So you think Faraday would be like you and say, oh yeah, you're doing really wonderful. You're doing a wonderful job. Do you think if Faraday was alive today, he'd say to you, oh, that was a really brilliant analysis you just did. Yeah, you evaded the truth so great. You're really such a great scientist. You really give a shit about the truth. When you couldn't even admit, hey, what Faraday would say, which is, that's bullshit. Okay? This has nothing to do with the reality. Your concept can't produce the pattern and you know it. So why are you pretending it did? You can't draw it. Faraday loved drawing shit, fuckhead. Alright. So just disgusting. Then Stephen asked some dopey question, but I think it's totally irrelevant about, like I said, we already know what causes the pattern, right? I mean, I've outed the whole thing for you. I have explained it for you. We've got the answer. The only thing that matters, answer. Okay? I mean, I was sitting here for years wondering, what's causing these two patterns? Which one does which? So now we know. The center impediment decides this big pattern. Right? So this distance of the block dictates that the big pattern, right? This pattern, okay, and this distance, okay, between the ends of the two openings, that distance decides how big the little bricks of light are inside that pattern. So this distance makes this distance makes this, the envelope. The envelope is being caused by the interior surfaces. The size of the bricks inside of the envelope is being dictated by the distance between these two surfaces here. There, done, equals truth. Period. And if you think about what I just said, you'll realize, oh, it's four surfaces. And it just depends on the distance between the four surfaces. And what are the four surfaces? They're 4-point sources. 4 sources of photon. Photon can go there. Photon can come from there. Photon can come from here. Photon can come from here. 4-point sources. And when all 4 of them are in phase at a location, you get a bar. When only 2 of them, no bar, 0. And that's the solution. That diagram works. That math works. The lines work. You could just draw the lines and you could mark them with little nodes, right? Just mark them as inch equals the phase. So I could just draw the phase as an inch marker, and then I could just measure them and say, well, as I move this across the screen, what locations do all the lines line up on a mark? Okay, that's what I'm looking for, or close to it. Let's understand, the dimmer ones are being created when they're a little bit out of phase. Not a lot, but a little bit out of phase. So you're okay when you're this much out or this much out, but as soon as you get near this 0 point, well, then you're not going to be in phase, and now you have a 0. So they can be a little bit out of phase. So all you're just saying is where are the points where the phase is close, and where are the points where the phase is completely, the phase from these two, okay, the lines don't all, it doesn't end on a line. These two show up on a line, but the other two show up on a half line, like this. And this one might be this way. So it's a half line. That won't make a photon. That out of phaseness won't, zero photon. And that's all you're doing. So I could actually draw that. You probably could draw a very nice mechanical drawing where you actually measure the line and you actually show the phase. You represent the phase. It's just notches on the line. And then you can just show how the longer line has notches in a different position. And you're just looking to line up the notches. And that's it. Mechanism provided. That works. Alright. Enough of the video. But these people are just such scum. I mean, to insult my integrity, say I'm doing some kind of wishy-washy philosophy, when you're the bastards who are sitting there just lying to people about what the facts are. You're pretending your math is perfect when it doesn't get the right answer. You're pretending, oh no, well, the right answer, we have one, but there's 3 pages of mathematics you have to do to understand 3 variables. Because the fact is, we're going to completely change the experiment with our math. And the reason why we don't draw it is because if we drawed it, you'd watch us changing the experiment. You'd watch us putting the wave somewhere it can't be, and you know it can't be. And that's all they're doing. Fucking bullshit. And again, let's see. Will he admit that what they draw everywhere, what all the physics show as the two slit experiment, is a deception? It won't work. The two little waves coming out of the slits can't work. Will he admit that undeniable truth? It's undeniable. It doesn't work. There's no way you can make it work. There's no mathematics that makes it work. You have to move those waves to a different location for it to work. You have to create an asymmetry between those two waves. You have to create two waves that essentially have two different frequencies. Will he admit the truth? I hate this fucking planet of assholes and liars and scum. I really do.